It's a ghost town.
A border crisis and a COVID crisis converged to create a business crisis.
We're all bleeding, and the borders have to open up so people can get back into business.
This week, questions as to why illegal border crossers are welcomed while legal tourists and shoppers are being shut out.
College sports drive billions of dollars of revenue for the NCAA.
Did you struggle financially as a college student athlete?
Oh, yes. It was very difficult.
Now, student athletes can begin to cash in on their sports, but it's not a slam dunk.
It's just going to be hard to police this. Can you force every state to do the same thing?
This week, student athletes and the debate over pay to play.
What made you decide to write a song about Afghanistan?
I take no joy in writing this song or putting this song out, but I think like all of us, we were watching those initial images. With the first one that really got me was when the soccer player fell off the plane to his death.
Got blood on my hands. And this week, we talk with the singer-songwriter known as Five for Fighting on an anthem inspired by these troubled times.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Cheryl Atkinson. In much of America, life has slowly slipped back into some semblance of normalcy after COVID-19 changed the world. And unless you live in a border town, you might not know about a strange holdover that's devastating thousands of businesses. Amid the border crisis, where record numbers of illegal immigrants are seemingly greeted with open arms, legal travelers from Mexico are restricted if they want to come by car or on foot. Today, how that's costing the U.S. billions.
For 12 years, David Chung has owned this shop in Laredo, Texas, just a few blocks from the Mexican border.
How many employees did you have before COVID hit, and what's the status now?
Before COVID hit, I had 3 full-time employees and 1 part-time on the weekends. Now I have no employees, just me and my wife. Some days I come to work by myself. I tell her to just stay home because, all day there's hardly any business.
While many American businesses are on the road to recovery, they're still stuck in neutral in border towns like Laredo. That's because the Mexican tourists these businesses have relied on for years are still forbidden.
While illegal border crossers are coming in and accepted by the thousands, legal shoppers from Mexico are considered non-essential travelers and banned under COVID restrictions since March of 2020. Can you tell me what's happened to the business since the non-essential traffic has been closed from Mexico?
So we stayed closed for about 6 months until September. But we reopened, but there was hardly any business because we were dependent on a lot of the businesses from Mexico because this is border, and all that just was gone.
From here in Texas through New Mexico and Arizona to California, thousands of businesses have shut down. Losses in U.S. border communities are estimated at $10 billion. Fewer sales, less income, less sales taxes for local government.
It's a ghost town.
Congressman Henry Cuellar represents Laredo. We met up in the struggling downtown section, where he told me he can't figure out why Mexican tourists can freely fly into the U.S., but aren't allowed to drive or walk across the port of entry just a few blocks from here.
Homeland puts a blame on CDC. CDC puts a blame on Homeland. Hey, Kush, how are you, man?
Kush Simtani has operated his business, Special Electronics, in downtown Laredo since 1989, relying primarily on Mexican customers.
There's nothing here. We're all bleeding, and the borders have to open up so people can get back into business.
His shop used to bring in 6 figures a day, he says, but now he's losing upwards of $10,000 a month and won't bring in $1 today.
What was this shop like, when it was busy and things were more normal, and what is it like now?
We had lines outside the door, people to pay. And and it was full in here, and people were buying TVs, electronics, and perfumes.
I mean, I believe air traffic is allowed to and from Mexico without these restrictions, but people can't drive across or walk across here.
I know, that's crazy. You know, I notice a lot of illegals crossing, but customers can't cross, which doesn't make sense.
Well, there are contradictions along the border. And why is it that you can have a Mexican fly into the U.S., but then a Mexican cannot drive across? I've asked them, why is it that undocumented people can come in, and why is it that people can come in? I've asked CDC the same question, their leadership, and they're basically are telling me the same thing, that it's complicated at the border. It's not complicated for us. We understand.
Questions about the policy and apparent contradictions heightened last month as thousands of Haitians stormed the border, crossing illegally with no vaccine requirements or COVID testing.
We've been hurting. I mean, our downtown area is desolate. I mean, it's dead just about. Over 120 storefronts have actually closed.
Laredo Mayor Pete Saenz says he has a novel idea that could help solve all concerns, allow Mexican shoppers back in and offer them vaccines.
We open up to non-essential so they can come into the U.S. and get vaccinated. And when they're here, they may help our economy too by shopping or staying at our hotels and restaurants and so on. So it's encouraging to hopefully invite these people and take care of their health needs, but also they could help us economically as well.
Meantime, Chung says he's not even making enough money to cover utilities at his shop.
How long do you think you can hang on without significant help or change?
Maybe another couple of months. It's at the time where I have to make a decision.
Just this past week, the Biden administration announced a reversal. Under pressure and with the U.S. economy continuing to show strain, vaccinated travelers coming by land or ferry will finally be allowed back into the U.S. starting in November.
I think what got them convinced is just pressure. They had to understand that this was important to our economy. How do you lose $19 billion from the Mexicans that were coming over and shopping? And just yesterday, I was downtown. It's so sad to see so many businesses that have closed up. But this Christmas, as you know, October, November, December, and January are so important for the border economies. This is going to be a very, very good Christmas.
It's a year and a half too late for some, but could be in time to save other businesses. Semtani is holding out hope.
We need our tourists. We're a borderfront city. We're the gateway to Mexico. We need our tourists to come here and shop.
The shop owners say the fourth quarter is typically the best for business, and if the border can open ahead of the holiday season, they say some businesses will be able to recover a decent portion of their losses. Ahead on Full Measure, one of the biggest changes to hit college sports, the question of paying college athletes.